And first, sorry for that, folks. The first story that I wanted to highlight this morning, we have a case where a former clerk with the Board of Inland Revenue was granted bail after appearing in court on charges for falsifying certificates, tax certificates, I believe it was, utilizing the misuse of a fellow employee's computer. He was working at the Board of Inland Revenue at the time to falsify the tax certificates in exchange for $10,000. So that would have been great news just out of context. Hey, look, a case of white-collar crime. Not a great step, not a large step forward, not a great accomplishment. One instance, how confident are we that there isn't more instances of things like this that are potentially not detected? So we are prosecuting one. I don't think it's reasonable to assume that there's only one. So that's just out of context, though. Okay, white-collar crime is being prosecuted. A little bit of corruption is being prosecuted because, again, he was alleged to have given VAT and income tax clearance certificates for people in exchange of $10,000. Not sure who paid him the money, just that he was paid for these alleged fraudulent certificates. I believe it should be easy to say that it was fraudulent. That could be proven now to a reasonable degree. So he is alleged to have done that. The twist in the story, because like I said, out of context, this is a little bit of good news, right? We would need to see more of this for it to be really something that you could say benefits the nation. But it's a little bit of good news. But the twist in the story is the fact that the company, in the name of these certificates, apparently is Specialist Shooters Training Center Limited, which is the company that is owned by one Brent Thomas, who is at the center, of course, of, I guess you could say, an offshoot of the firearm users license investigation, which led to his arrest in Barbados and relocation, in order for me not to have a disagreement with the AG. Some might say relocation, others might say abduction. So I find it interesting now, with this twist, that one of the few, if potentially the only one instance that I have heard of, where someone commits fraud in a government office, issuing fraudulent certificates, is caught and arrested and charged, granted $100,000 bail. You know, this is serious. This is not no slap on your wrist thing. It's in conjunction to Brent Thomas. Now, there are two ways you could look at this, and I think both are valid. One is the fact that they're investigating the man. And if he is potentially involved in criminal activity, then it stands to reason there might be other things that he's involved with. Or perhaps, maybe to say criminal activity is too strong of a way to phrase it. Perhaps you should say that, well, he was involved with, skating the rules, kind of like towing the line, finding loopholes and shortcuts. And this is just one shortcut too many. I mean, we still haven't necessarily heard any sort of final decision with regards to his possession of automatic weapons that he has a license for. We don't know what the main investigation with regards to firearm users licenses, was about, what was it centered around, what was the actual. We know what the rumors are, and we know that the rumors are connected to the former commissioner. But as of right now, they are not proven. There are no convictions, so I can't say, regardless of what I think or don't think, with regards to those rumors. Now, in this case, we do have an arrest of Mr. Thomas and now a potential allegation. Again, it apparently is said that it is unknown who paid the money. So that and all is the twist within the twist. So the other way you could look at it is, this is quite convenient that someone who is at the center of the government, the state admitted that what they did with regards to the relocation of Brent Thomas was not legal. So it's convenient that now they found more dirt on him. And it's not to say that it's directly related to any sort of firearms user's license investigation. So to what extent could this be a setup? We don't know. Now, I'll say this, to some degree, the TTPS has been more transparent than I would have expected, because they do answer questions at the Joint Select Committee. Joint Select Committees, folks, pay attention. That seems to be where we got a lot of good information. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's where we found out that the government owes billions of dollars to TNTech. That's where we found out about, well, what's going on with the police. That's where, unfortunately, the commissioner made her claims with regards to her crime plan, but that's also where she admitted the state of crime going in the opposite direction. Now, this case seems to be a situation where they don't necessarily want to speak about. Again, if you leave us without information, don't complain if we take things out of context, because at the end of the day, this is an important case for multiple reasons. It speaks to legal firearms in the country and how that's being managed. It also speaks to the capacity by which the authorities can legally, or in this case, illegally, apprehend somebody in a first jurisdiction. How will that pan out with regards to accountability? The precedents for punishment, for responsibility, for explaining the situation, all of these things are going to matter. They're going to set the tone, because if you give a government an inch, just like anything else, they could take a mile, especially if you give them an inch, they take the mile, and you say nothing about it. So we have a clerk, a former clerk, perhaps, and I'm not saying that they need to reveal everything, but they could figure out a few things to reveal that could settle these issues. Because the unfortunate thing is, and this is what I don't understand, politics is based more in perception than in reality. Because as much as we all like to think we're geniuses, we can't follow every statistic, we can't follow every decision, every policy implementation, every construction project or initiative or program. We can't follow it all. We can't follow every line item of expenditure and have perfect information as to what the government is or is not doing. We can't follow the productivity levels of public servants and bureaucrats and ministers and MPs. We can't. So it's, as much as we think we know, a lot of it is just how we perceive the situation. And this is part of the leadership function. The leadership function of managing expectations. Even in private business, you have to manage the expectations of your customers. And if you fail to do that, you could fail as a business. I don't understand how is it that, one, politicians don't understand the degree of which they have a responsibility to the people to explain enough. Not everything, enough. And enough is subjective, but would you say that enough is being explained? And then two, the fact that we, the people, accept this. I think I'm going to reach a point where I don't really want to hear people complain about the government in general, because we accept and we support our side and we brush over what they do, and notice that the accusations from one side are not all too different that the other side has for them. And yet somehow our righteous indignation about the superiority of our political clan remains, undefeatable. So, again, a former clerk has been accused, charged, and been granted bail. So he has given false tax certificates for VAT and income tax to the firearms company or the shooting range company owned by Brent Thomas, who is involved in a case that has wider implications than this tax fraud case. Brent Thomas's situation has wider implications for the country and how we will respond and what precedent we will set with regards to our acceptance of certain things that relate to the fight against crime. I believe that's a big issue right now. I believe so. So this is something that bears worth watching. The implications are endless, folks. And those small implications, they might seem small. Oh, why are you harping on this? Why are you making such a mountain out of an anthill? No, they seem small. But society is built on a lot of small decisions and a lot of incremental changes. They say this about war, they say this about the economy. It gets worse slowly and then all at once. We don't want to reach the all at once stage.